I woke up at 2 in the afternoon. The bedroom curtains were still drawn. I blinked at the clock, tried to make sense of the numbers. 2:14. How was it 2:14? I couldn't remember getting up that morning. Couldn't remember breakfast. Couldn't remember much of anything, really. My head felt thick, heavy, like someone had stuffed it with cotton overnight. I sat on the edge of the bed for a while, just sat there trying to piece together the day. Nothing came. The morning was just gone. A blank space where my life should have been. I made my way to the bathroom. My hands gripped the doorframe for balance. When had walking gotten so hard? I flipped on the light. The brightness hurt. I squinted at the mirror. The woman looking back seemed older than 72, thinner, dark circles under her eyes. I touched my face. The skin felt papery, unfamiliar. Then I saw the medicine cabinet. It was open. I didn't remember opening it. 9 orange pill bottles lined the shelves. 9. I stared at them. When did I start taking 9 medications? I reached for the nearest bottle. My hands shook as I read the label. Quetiapine, 25 milligrams. Take 1 tablet twice daily. I didn't recognize the name. I picked up another bottle, lorazepam, another, risperidone. The name swam in front of my eyes, medical words, chemical words, words I didn't understand. I counted them again. 1, 2, 3. 9 bottles, 9 different medications, all prescribed to Margaret Thompson, all filled at David's pharmacy. David, my son, the pharmacist. I carried the bottles to the kitchen table, set them down in a row. The sunlight coming through the window made the orange plastic glow. I sat there looking at them for a long time. My kitchen, my table, my hands. But these pills felt like they belonged to someone else, someone sick, someone who needed 9 different medications just to get through the day. The calendar on the refrigerator caught my eye. March 15th. I walked over to look at it. David's handwriting covered the pages. Neat, precise letters. Mom's meds, 8 a.m., 2 p.m., 8 p.m. Every day, for months. I flipped back through the calendar. January, February, all of it in David's handwriting. My medication schedule. My life, organized by my son. When had I stopped managing my own pills? On the counter, I found a note. Also David's handwriting. The paper was crisp, recent. Mom, took you to Dr. Morrison last Tuesday. He wants you on these new meds. Take them with breakfast. Call if confused. Love, D. I read it twice, 3 times. Took you to Dr. Morrison last Tuesday. I tried to remember, tried to pull up some image of Dr. Morrison's office, the waiting room, the drive there, anything. Nothing came, just fog. Thick cotton fog where my memory should have been. 6 months ago, I'd been sharp. I did the crossword puzzle every morning in pen, managed my own checkbook, never missed a garden club meeting. I'd been teaching for 35 years. Before I retired, I knew how to keep track of things, how to stay organized, how to remember. But now I couldn't remember Tuesday, couldn't remember the doctor, couldn't remember agreeing to 9 different medications. I picked up my phone, hands still shaking. Found Dr. Morrison's number in my contacts. The receptionist answered on the second ring. Dr. Morrison's office, this is Jenny. Hi, this is Margaret Thompson. I need to schedule an appointment. Oh, Mrs. Thompson. Her voice brightened. How are you feeling? David said the new medications might take a few days to adjust. My throat went dry. I'm sorry. When was I there last? A pause. Let me check your file. I heard computer keys clicking. Looks like you were here last Tuesday, March 12th. David brings you in every month now for your checkups. Every month now. The words hung in the air. I see, I said. My voice sounded far away. Thank you. I set the phone down, looked at the pill bottles, 9 of them, looked at the calendar, David's handwriting, looked at the note. Took you to Dr. Morrison. I didn't remember any of it. Before the fog, my life had been simple. Good, even. I'd retired from teaching 8 years ago, 35 years of second grade at Riverside Elementary. I'd loved it. The kids, the routine, the satisfaction of watching them learn to read. After my husband Thomas died, the teaching kept me going, gave me purpose. But retirement was good too. I'd earned it. I lived alone in the house we'd bought in 1987, a 3-bedroom ranch in the suburbs. Nothing fancy, but it was paid off, mine. The mortgage-burning party had been one of the last good times Thomas and I had together before his heart attack. The house was worth about $450,000 now, the realtor had told me last year. I kept it up, kept the garden nice. It was home. My days had a rhythm: coffee at 6, crossword puzzle by 6:30, garden club on Tuesdays, book club on Thursdays, coffee with Carol from next door most afternoons. I managed my own finances, paid my own bills, drove myself to the grocery store, the library, the doctor when I needed to. I wasn't wealthy, but I had enough. Social Security, Thomas's pension, some savings. I was independent. That mattered to me. I'd helped David through pharmacy school. It had seemed like the right thing to do at the time. $38,000 in student loans I co-signed when he couldn't get approved on his own. I paid $15,000 for his first car when he graduated. He needed reliable transportation to get to work. Another $12,000 for the down payment on his house 5 years ago when his credit wasn't quite good enough. $22,000 for my grandkids' private school tuition last year when David said business was tight at the pharmacy. I even paid $8,000 for his divorce lawyer last year when things fell apart with Jennifer. That one hurt. I'd liked Jennifer. Total, $95,000 over the years. I thought I was helping my son build a life, building a future for my grandchildren. That's what mothers do, right? You help your kids. You sacrifice. I'd done it gladly. Never asked for repayment. Family isn't about keeping score. But somewhere in the past year, things had shifted. My neighbor Carol had been my friend for 30 years. We'd raised our kids together, watched them grow up, survived the empty nest together. She was 68, a widow like me. We had coffee every Tuesday after garden club. She brought casseroles when I wasn't feeling well. I did the same for her. Carol was the one who noticed first. My son David was 45, pharmacist, divorced. He had 2 kids, Emily, 12, and Jacob, 9. He saw them every other weekend. After the divorce, he'd started coming around more, checking on me, asking about my medications, my doctor's appointments. I thought it was sweet, thoughtful. He was worried about me getting older, alone in the house. It made sense. My daughter Linda lived in Seattle. She was 42, marketing executive, married, successful. We talked every Sunday on video call. She'd wanted me to move out there closer to her. But this was my home, my life. I didn't want to uproot everything at 72. The red flags started small. 8 months ago, David suggested I see Dr. Morrison. "Just a checkup, Mom. You seem a little forgetful lately." I dismissed it. I wasn't forgetful. Was I? But David would know. He was a medical professional. He saw these things. If he thought I should get checked out, I should probably listen. Dr. Morrison prescribed one medication, just one, for blood pressure, 25 milligrams, nothing major. But then David started organizing my medications. "Let me set up your pill box, Mom. It's complicated. You don't want to mix things up." I'd felt relieved, honestly. It was nice to have help, nice to have someone care. Carol had expressed concern back then. "Maggie, you've always been so sharp. Are you sure you need all this help?" I'd brushed her off. "Oh, David would know. He's a pharmacist. He sees these things." That was 6 months ago. Linda had called from Seattle around the same time. "Mom, you sound different, slower." I'd been tired. The medication made me drowsy. "Just tired, honey. David says it's my blood pressure medication. It takes time to adjust." I'd trusted David. Why wouldn't I? He was my son the pharmacist, the medical expert in the family. If he said I needed help, I probably did. Looking back, I could see my flaw so clearly now. I valued family harmony over everything else. over truth, over self-protection. I didn't want to be difficult, didn't want to question David. He was going through a hard time. The divorce had been brutal. Jennifer had gotten the house, the kids most weekends, half his pension. David had looked so defeated when he came to me for the lawyer money. "I don't know how I'll make it, Mom," he'd said. I'd written the check. Of course I did. Carol had mentioned, casually, that she'd heard David was having money troubles, something about the pharmacy. But I didn't ask questions. That felt intrusive. David was a grown man. If he needed help, he'd ask. That morning, the morning I woke up at 2 p.m., I'd done something I hadn't done in months. After I hung up with Dr. Morrison's office, I sat at the kitchen table with my coffee. The coffee went cold while I stared at those pill bottles, 9 of them. I picked up one bottle, read the label carefully. 25 milligrams. Take 1 tablet twice daily. Then I looked at David's pill organizer, the Monday morning compartment. 3 pills, not 1. 3. I counted the milligrams. 75. Triple the dose on the label. I checked Tuesday. 3 pills. Wednesday. 3 pills. Every single day. Triple the prescribed dose. My hands started shaking, not from confusion this time, from something else, something that felt like the ground shifting under my feet. The book club newsletter Carol had brought last week was still on my counter, unread. I'd tried to read it 3 times. The words wouldn't stick. My brain felt like it was wrapped in gauze. But now, sitting there looking at those pills, at that pill organizer, something clicked. This wasn't aging, this wasn't blood pressure, this wasn't me. This was the medication. That's when I knew something was very, very wrong. That night, I made a decision. I took the evening pills David had organized in my pill box, held them in my palm. Then I walked to the bathroom and dropped them in the toilet, flushed, watched them disappear. I did the same thing the next morning and the next evening. By the 3rd day, something shifted. The fog started to lift, not completely, but enough. Enough that I could think more clearly. Enough that I could remember what I'd had for breakfast. Enough that when I picked up the crossword puzzle, the clues actually made sense. I found the old pill bottle in the back of my bathroom drawer. The original prescription from 8 months ago. The label was faded but readable. Quetiapine, 25 milligrams. Take 1 tablet daily as needed. I carried it to the kitchen, set it next to the current bottle. Same medication, same doctor. But the new bottle said take 1 tablet twice daily, and David's pill organizer had 3 tablets per dose, from 1 pill as needed to 6 pills per day, in 8 months. I called a pharmacy across town, not David's, asked to speak with a pharmacist. "I have a question about dosages," I said, kept my voice casual. "Quetiapine. If someone were taking 75 milligrams twice a day, is that normal?" A pause. "Ma'am, that's quite high. You'd need very careful monitoring for that dosage. Who prescribed this?" "Just wondering," I said. "Thank you." I hung up, sat there. My insurance statements were in the file cabinet where I kept important papers. David had offered to help organize them months ago, but I'd said no to that. Some things I kept track of myself. I pulled out the last 3 months, started reading. Claims for medications I didn't recognize. Prescriptions filled at David's pharmacy. Some of them I'd never even picked up, never even seen. But my insurance had been charged. Someone had picked them up. David. I heard his car in the driveway that evening, Wednesday. He usually stopped by Wednesdays after work. I slipped the insurance statements back into the cabinet, set the old pill bottle back in the drawer, arranged my face into something neutral when he knocked and let himself in with his key. "Hey, Mom." He looked tired. His pharmacist's coat was wrinkled. "Just checking in. How are you feeling?" "Fine," I said, careful, calm. "David, I noticed something. The dosages on my pills seem high." His expression didn't change. Practiced. Professional. "Mom, Dr. Morrison adjusted them. You were having episodes." "What episodes?" He set his pharmacy bag on the counter. "Memory lapses, confusion. That's why you need the medication, to help stabilize things. I felt the ground shift. Was I confused? Was I forgetting episodes? I don't remember any episodes. See? His voice was gentle, patient, the voice he probably used with elderly customers at the pharmacy. This is what I mean. You don't remember. That's the concerning part. He pulled out my appointment book, the one I kept by the phone, showed me dates written in his handwriting. February 8th, Dr. Morrison. You were there. March 12th. You were there. You just don't remember, Mom. That's why you need help. I looked at the dates, his handwriting. I tried to pull up memories of those appointments. The drive, the waiting room, Dr. Morrison's office. Nothing. Just blank space. Maybe he was right. Maybe I was confused. No. The pills, the dosages. Something wasn't right. I see, I said, kept my voice even. Thank you for explaining. That night, after David left, I took the pill organizer he'd refilled, dumped the pills into a plastic bag, hid the bag in the back of my closet. Then I filled the organizer with vitamins from my medicine cabinet. Same size, same color. If he checked, he'd see pills. He wouldn't know they weren't the real ones. I didn't take anything that night, or the next morning, or the next evening. By day 5, without the medications, my head was clearer than it had been in months. I could think. Really think. David had been helping with my paperwork lately, too, bringing forms for me to sign. Power of attorney documents, he'd said. Just in case something happens, Mom, so I can make medical decisions if you're unable to. I'd sign them. When? 2 months ago? 3? The timeline was fuzzy. I went through his bag, the one he left on the counter, found a folder marked Mom Legal. Inside, a conservatorship petition, draft copy, dated 2 weeks ago. I read it. Every word. Legal language, but clear enough. Petitioner seeks conservatorship over Margaret Thompson, age 72, on grounds of mental incapacity and inability to manage personal affairs. Subject demonstrates severe cognitive decline, memory loss, and confusion. Subject requires full-time oversight for medical decisions and financial management. My hands shook, not from medication, from something else, something cold settling in my chest. This wasn't about helping me. This was about controlling me. Legal control, medical control, financial control, everything. David wasn't worried about my health. He was building a case, documenting my incompetence, using the medications he'd been increasing without authorization as proof that I couldn't take care of myself. My phone rang. Carol. I almost didn't answer, but Carol had been checking on me more lately, noticing things. Maggie, I'm coming over. I made tuna casserole. 20 minutes later, she was at my door, set the casserole on the counter, looked at me. Really looked at me. Maggie, you look better. Different. I haven't been taking the medications. Her face changed. What? David's been increasing my dosages, way beyond what the doctor prescribed. I found the original bottles, the records. Carol? Something's very wrong. Carol sat down. How long has this been going on? Months, 6 months, maybe longer. I thought I was losing my mind, but it wasn't me. It was the pills. David's been here a lot lately, Carol said, carefully. Every few days. He filed for conservatorship. I found the papers. Carol's face went pale. Oh, Maggie. I showed her the petition, the insurance statements, the pill bottles with the dosage discrepancies. She read everything, looked up at me. You need a lawyer. I know. And you need to talk to Dr. Morrison without David there. I know that too. Through Carol's car window, I saw David's sedan parked across the street. He was sitting in it. Just sitting. Had he been watching my house? I looked closer. On his dashboard, I could see an envelope, bank letterhead, red letters visible even from here. Foreclosure warning. My stomach dropped. Not because I felt sorry for him anymore, because I understood. He wasn't helping me. He was drowning. Financially, professionally, And he'd tried to pull me under with him, used my trust, my love, my motherhood, as leverage. Carol squeezed my hand. What do you do? I looked at the conservatorship petition, at the pill bottles, at my friend's worried face. I fight back, I said, quietly, carefully, but I fight back. That night, I skipped all my medications, every single one. I wanted to wake up clear-headed, completely clear-headed, because tomorrow I was calling Dr. Morrison's office, and this time I was going alone. I went to Dr. Morrison's office on Friday morning, alone. I'd called ahead, asked specifically for an appointment when David wouldn't be there. The receptionist had been surprised. "Don't you usually come with your son?" "Not today," I'd said. The waiting room was familiar now that I could actually see it clearly. Beige walls, magazine rack, fish tank in the corner. I'd been here before, multiple times apparently. I just couldn't remember any of it. Dr. Morrison came out to get me himself. He was 64, I remembered that much. We'd been seeing him for years, Thomas and I, and then just me after Thomas died. He'd always been kind, professional. I'd trusted him. "Margaret." He looked surprised to see me walking steadily, speaking clearly. "You look, well, much better than last week." "I wasn't here last week," I said. His face changed, confused. "Let me get your file." We sat in his office. He opened the thick folder with my name on it, started reading through the recent notes. I watched his expression shift, from confusion to concern to something that looked like alarm. "These notes," he said slowly, "are in David's handwriting." "I know." "It says here you were too confused to communicate clearly, that David answered all the questions for you, that you didn't remember basic information, your address, what year it was, what medications you were taking." I looked him in the eye. "What year is it, Dr. Morrison?" 2025. "What's my address?" 1642 Maple Drive. "What medications did you originally prescribe for me? 8 months ago?" He flipped back through the file. "Quetiapine, 25 milligrams, once daily as needed, for occasional anxiety." And now, he looked at the recent notes. His face went pale. "According to these notes, I increased it to twice daily, then 3 times daily, but He stopped, looked at me. "Margaret, I never authorized these increases. I prescribed based on what David told me about your condition. David told you I was declining." "Yes, rapidly. He said you were having severe memory issues, confusion, paranoia. He showed me—" Dr. Morrison pulled out his phone, scrolled through messages. "He sent me videos of you looking confused, disoriented." My hands gripped the arms of the chair. "Can I see them?" He turned the phone toward me. I watched myself on the screen, in my kitchen, staring blankly, not responding when David asked me questions, looking lost, scared. "When was this taken?" I asked. 3 weeks ago, according to the timestamp." 3 weeks ago, when I'd been taking the highest doses, when the fog had been thickest, when I could barely remember my own name some days. "Dr. Morrison," I said carefully, "I haven't been taking those medications for the past week. Does it seem like I'm confused now?" He looked at me, really looked at me, at my clear eyes, my steady voice, my coherent questions. "No," he said quietly. "No, you don't." I sat there looking at my medical file, my life, my mind, all of it filtered through David's version of me, a version where I was incompetent, confused, needed heavy medication, and Dr. Morrison had believed him. Why wouldn't he? David was a pharmacist, my son, medical professional, concerned family member, every box checked. I felt something crack open inside me, not confusion, clarity, cold, awful clarity. David hadn't been helping me. He'd been erasing me, systematically, methodically, using his medical knowledge and my trust to make me disappear, to create a version of me that needed a conservator, needed someone to make decisions for her, needed him, and it had almost worked. "I need you to document this," I said. "Everything. What you prescribed versus what David told you, the videos he sent, all of it." Dr. Morrison nodded. "I'll write a report. Margaret, I'm so sorry. I should have insisted on seeing you alone. Should have questioned—" "You trusted a pharmacist's observations," I said. "That's what you're supposed to do." But as I left his office, I thought, not anymore. Not ever again. I stopped at a pharmacy across town, not David's, requested my prescription records from his pharmacy. The pharmacist looked uncomfortable when she pulled them up. "Ma'am, these dosages—" "I need to ask, are you aware that your prescriptions show 25 milligrams, but the dispensing records show 75 milligrams were given to you?" "I am now." She printed everything. Prescription labels, dispensing records, computer access logs showing David's employee ID accessing my records, repeatedly, at odd hours, making changes to quantities, dosages, refill authorizations, all without doctor approval, all without my knowledge. The stack of papers was 2 inches thick. Evidence, concrete, undeniable. At home, I went through my bank statements, really went through them this time, the last 6 months, line by line, transfers to David's account, March $7,000, February $8,000, January $6,000, December $9,000, going back and back. Total $47,000 in 6 months. I didn't remember authorizing any of it, but there were my signatures on transfer forms, on loan documents, dated during the months when I could barely remember what day it was. I found a power of attorney form, dated 4 months ago, my signature at the bottom, giving David authority to access my accounts, make financial decisions, sign documents on my behalf. 4 months ago, I'd been taking the highest medication doses. I'd have signed anything David put in front of me. Probably had. I called a forensic accountant. Carol's son knew someone, made an appointment for Monday. My insurance statements showed something else. Claims for medications I'd never picked up, never seen. Expensive medications, antipsychotics, sedatives, all filled at David's pharmacy, all charged to my insurance. Someone had picked them up. Not me. The insurance company had flagged some of the claims, unusual patterns, excessive quantities, but David had called them, explained his mother was very sick, very confused, needed the medications. They'd approved it. Insurance fraud, on top of everything else. Carol came over Sunday afternoon with her camera. "I've been taking photos," she said, "at Garden Club. I didn't realize I was documenting anything. I like taking pictures of the meetings, of my friends." She showed me her phone. Photos from 6 months ago. Me, smiling, clear-eyed. Presenting on perennials. Photos from 4 months ago. Me, looking thinner, confused, sitting silently while others talked. Photos from 2 months ago. Me, barely present, staring into space. "And this is from last Tuesday," Carol said. 1 week after I'd stopped taking the medications, me looking more like myself, color back in my face, eyes focused, a visual timeline, proof of decline, proof of recovery, physical evidence that it wasn't aging, wasn't dementia, it was the medications. "Can you email these to me?" I asked. Already did. That evening, I made a mistake. I was angry. Probably angrier than I'd been in my entire 72 years. Controlled anger, cold anger, but anger nonetheless. I called David. "Mom, how are you?" "I went to Dr. Morrison," I said, alone. Silence. Long silence. "Mom, I know about the dosages, David. I know what you've been doing. You're confused. This is exactly what I've been worried about. This paranoia. I have the prescription records, the dispensing records, the insurance statements, all of it." More silence. Then his voice changed, harder. "You're not well, Mom. You're manipulating a doctor while mentally impaired. This proves I need the conservatorship for your own safety." "The conservatorship you filed without telling me?" "You weren't capable of understanding. You still aren't. I'm protecting you." "From what, David? From myself? Or from asking questions about where my money went?" He hung up. I sat there, phone in my hand. I tipped my hand. Let him know I was investigating. That was stupid. Impulsive, not strategic. Now he knew. Now he'd prepare. Maybe escalate. My phone rang again. Not David. A number I didn't recognize. "Mrs. Thompson, this is Susan Walsh. I'm an elder law attorney. Carol Jennings gave me your number. She said you might need legal help." "I do," I said. "I need help immediately." "Can you come to my office tomorrow, 9 a.m.? "I'll be there." That night, I organized everything, printed everything, created folders, made copies, labeled them clearly: Dr. Morrison's report, pharmacy records, bank statements, insurance claims, photos, all of it in order, chronological, clear, undeniable. I looked at the evidence spread across my kitchen table, my life, reduced to paper, but also my proof, my ammunition, my way out. David thought he could make me disappear, could medicate me into incompetence, could control everything, had almost succeeded. Almost. But I was still here, still clear-headed, still capable of fighting back, and now I had evidence. Not suspicions, not confusion, evidence. Tomorrow I'd bring it to an attorney, start building a case, not just to stop the conservatorship, to stop David, to protect myself, to get my life back. For the first time in 6 months, I felt something close to hope, but also fear, because David knew now, knew I was onto him, knew I had evidence. What would he do next? I didn't sleep much that night, kept the evidence folder next to my bed, just in case. In case of what, I wasn't sure, but I kept it close. The next morning, my phone showed a notification, email, from the county courthouse. Emergency conservatorship petition, hearing set for April 12th. David had filed it. Emergency petition, claiming I'd collapsed, claiming I was a danger to myself, claiming immediate guardianship was necessary. I had 30 days to fight back, 30 days to prove I was competent, 30 days to undo 6 months of systematic erasure. But I also had evidence, and I had an attorney, and I had my mind back. It would have to be enough. Monday morning. Susan Walsh's office was downtown, professional, organized. Her desk was covered in color-coded file folders. Mine was already there, thick, growing. Susan was 52, short gray hair, sharp eyes. She'd been an elder law attorney for 15 years. Carol's son had vouched for her. She's the best, and she doesn't lose. I needed someone who didn't lose. "Tell me everything," Susan said. I did. The medications, the dosages, the conservatorship petition, the financial transfers, all of it. She took notes, asked questions. Her face stayed professional, but I saw her jaw tighten when I got to the part about David filming me while I was medicated. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. "Margaret, do you want to file criminal charges against your son?" I thought about that. Really thought about it. Criminal charges. David arrested, prosecuted, possibly in jail, my son, my oldest child. "I want my life back," I said carefully. "I want him to stop. I want to make sure he can never do this again. What's the fastest path to that?" Susan nodded. "Contest the conservatorship. Hard. Bring in a medical expert who can evaluate you now while you're off the medications. Prove you're competent. If you're clearly competent, David's going to look very bad. The court won't like that he was over-medicating you to build a case for incompetence." "How long do I have?" "Hearings in 3 weeks. We need to move fast. I'll get Dr. Patricia Chen. She's a geriatric psychiatrist. Best in the field. If she evaluates you and finds you competent, that carries weight." "And if David brings his own experts?" "He will. They'll say you're delusional. paranoid. But we'll have the evidence. The pharmacy records, Dr. Morrison's report, the financial records. We show a pattern. We show motive. We make it clear this isn't about your health. It's about control. I sat there absorbing it. A fight, a legal fight, against my son, in court, public, documented, real. Okay, I said, let's do it. That afternoon, I stood in my kitchen. The same kitchen where I'd sat confused for months, where I'd stared at those pill bottles and couldn't make sense of them, where I'd lost chunks of my life to fog. I went to the bathroom, opened the medicine cabinet. Every pill bottle was still there. David's labels, David's dosages, David's control. I took them out, one by one, lined them up on my kitchen counter. 9 bottles. I looked at them, really looked at them. These weren't helping me. They were erasing me, making me disappear, making me into someone who needed a conservator, someone who couldn't be trusted with her own life. I opened my phone, took a picture, date stamp, time stamp, evidence, documentation. Then I opened each bottle, poured the pills into the garbage disposal, turned it on, listened to them grind away, all of them, every single one. The bottles went into the recycling bin, empty, done. I walked outside. My garden was overgrown. I hadn't tended it in months. Hadn't had the energy, hadn't had the clarity. But now I did. I knelt in the dirt, pulled weeds, trimmed dead branches, got my hands in the soil, real, physical, present. The April air was cool. The sun was warm on my back. I could feel everything. No fog, no distance. Just me and my garden and the earth under my fingernails. I stood there, hands in the dirt. David thought he could make me disappear, but I was still here, still standing, and I knew exactly what I had to do. I thought about Christmas 2 years ago. David had brought the kids over. Emily had been 10, Jacob 7. We'd made cookies, decorated the tree. David had helped hang the lights. He'd hugged me in the kitchen while the kids played in the living room. Thanks for everything, Mom. For the school tuition, for always being there. I don't know what I'd do without you. I'd felt warm, needed, useful, a good mother, a good grandmother. That was 2 years ago. Now that same son had filed papers declaring me incompetent, had drugged me into confusion, had stolen $47,000, probably more once the forensic accountant finished the audit, had filmed me while medicated and sent the videos to my doctor as proof I was declining, not to help me, to control me, to access my house, my savings, everything I'd worked for, everything Thomas and I had built together. I'd trusted him. Of course I had. He was my son, the pharmacist, the medical expert. Why wouldn't I trust him? But trust wasn't the problem. The problem was that I'd valued his comfort over my own safety, valued family harmony over truth. I'd been so worried about being difficult, about asking hard questions, about seeming ungrateful or suspicious. My trust hadn't been foolish, my silence had been, but I wasn't silent anymore. My phone rang. Linda. I almost didn't answer, but I needed to. Hi, honey. Mom. Linda's voice was sharp, concerned. You sound different, clear. Are you okay? I'm better than I've been in months. What's going on? I called David last night to check on you. He said you were having paranoid delusions, that you'd stopped taking your medications, that he was worried you were going to hurt yourself. I closed my eyes. Of course. Of course David was calling Linda, building his case, getting her on his side. Linda, I need you to come home. I need you to see me in person. Can you take a few days off work? Mom, please, I know you're busy. I know it's short notice, but I need you here. I need you to see what's really happening. A long pause. Okay, I can fly in tomorrow, stay through the week, but Mom, if you're not taking your medications, just come, see for yourself, then judge. Okay, I'll be there tomorrow night. Linda arrived Tuesday evening. I met her at the door. She stopped, stared at me. Mom? "Hi, sweetheart. You look—" She came inside, set down her bag. "You look like you. Like actually you. Not how you've looked on our video calls for the past 6 months." We sat at the kitchen table. I showed her everything. The pill bottles, the old ones, the new ones, the dosage discrepancies, the pharmacy records, the bank statements, the conservatorship petition, Dr. Morrison's report, Carol's photos, all of it. Linda read everything. Her face went pale, then red, then pale again. "He drugged you." "Yes." "And stole from you." "Yes." "Mom," her voice broke. "I'm so sorry. I should have visited. Should have seen—" "You're here now," I said. "That's what matters. I'm testifying at the hearing. Whatever you need." "Thank you." She looked at me. Really looked at me. "You're fighting back." "I am." "Good." Linda squeezed my hand. "I'll help you fight." That night, Linda asleep in the guest room, I sat in my garden. The moon was nearly full. The air smelled like earth and growing things. I'd planted nothing yet, but I would. Roses, maybe. They took time to bloom. Months. But I'd be here to see it. I thought about the woman I'd been 6 months ago, trusting. Maybe too trusting. Conflict avoidant. Desperate to keep the peace. To be a good mother. A good person. I thought about the woman I was now. Still kind. Still loving. But not silent. Not anymore. David was my son. I'd raised him. Loved him. Helped him build his life, but he'd used that love as leverage, used my motherhood as a weapon against me, and almost won. Almost. But I was still here, still clear, still capable, still strong. The hearing was in 3 weeks. Susan said it would be hard. David would bring psychiatrists, expert witnesses. They'd paint me as paranoid, delusional, incapable. But I had evidence. I had my own doctors. I had my clarity. I had my daughter. I had Carol. I had my mind back. And I was going to fight for my life, my house, my independence, everything that made me who I was. Not because I wanted to punish David, but because I deserved to be free. I deserved to be myself again. Dr. Patricia Chen's office was different from Dr. Morrison's. Modern, calm. She was 58, a geriatric psychiatrist who specialized in evaluating cognitive function in older adults. Susan had called her the best in the field. The evaluation took 3 hours. Memory tests, logic puzzles, questions about current events, my life history, my daily routines. Dr. Chen watched me carefully, took notes, asked me to remember sequences of numbers, identify patterns, solve problems. When we finished, she set down her pen. "Mrs. Thompson, you show no signs of dementia or psychosis. Your cognitive function is excellent. Your memory is sharp. Your reasoning is intact. You're performing at the level I'd expect from someone decades younger." "What about the confusion? The memory loss from the past 6 months? You show clear signs of having been over-sedated. The medications you were on, antipsychotics at those dosages, combined with benzodiazepines, would render anyone confused and impaired, especially at your age and weight. These dosages were dangerously high." Did I need those medications? Dr. Chen's face was serious. "In my professional opinion, absolutely not. You show no psychiatric symptoms that would warrant antipsychotic medication. The only thing wrong with you was what was being done to you." She wrote her report that afternoon. Susan called me that evening. "Margaret, this is gold. Dr. Chen's evaluation is unequivocal. You're competent, more than competent, and she's willing to testify." One piece in place, but David wasn't waiting. 2 days later, his attorney filed a motion. I read it sitting at my kitchen table with Susan on speakerphone. Motion to show cause. Subject demonstrates paranoid delusions regarding son in medical care. Subject has ceased prescribed medications against medical advice. Subject's accusations against David Thompson, a licensed pharmacist, are textbook signs of paranoid thinking. Emergency conservatorship necessary to prevent further deterioration and self-harm. "He's using my accusations as proof I'm crazy," I said. Yes, Susan said. It's a common tactic, but we have the evidence. The pharmacy records don't lie. The bank statements don't lie. We'll show the court that your accusations aren't delusions. They're documented facts. Linda called from Seattle. She'd talked to other family members, my sister Helen, David's ex-wife Jennifer, her husband's sister who worked at a bank. Mom, people are divided. Aunt Helen thinks David's trying to help you. She says you've always been too independent, never wanted to admit you needed help, that this is pride talking. My stomach sank. What did you tell her? I showed her the pharmacy records, the bank statements, Dr. Chen's evaluation. She's thinking about it. But Mom, David's been calling everyone. He's very convincing. Of course he was. That's how this worked. The abuser tells a story where they're the hero, the concerned son, the worried family member, and some people believe it, because it's easier to believe than the alternative. A week before the hearing, David's attorney sent a settlement offer, mediation proposal. I read it with Susan in her office. David Thompson offers to withdraw conservatorship petition if Margaret Thompson agrees to voluntary oversight. David will hold durable power of attorney for medical and financial decisions, activated in case of emergency. Margaret retains day-to-day independence, but agrees to quarterly competency evaluations. All allegations dropped. No criminal charges pursued. He wants me to give him power of attorney voluntarily, I said, without the court fight. Yes, he gets what he wants. Control, without the public hearing, without the evidence coming out, without the scrutiny. If I say yes, this ends. No fight, no hearing, no family drama. Susan looked at me. Margaret, that power of attorney is exactly what he wants. It gives him legal access to your accounts, your medical decisions, everything. The moment you have a bad day, and everyone has bad days at 72, he activates it. You're right back where you started. Only this time, it's legal. I thought about it. Imagine saying yes. Imagine the relief, the peace. No courtroom, no public accusations, no family divided, just quiet, contained, controlled. No, I said. I'm not giving him that. Not after what he did. Are you sure? The hearing will be hard. He'll bring expert witnesses. They'll question your judgment, your competence. It'll be public, recorded. Your family will hear everything. I'm sure. Susan nodded. Then we fight. But David wasn't done. The day after I refused the settlement, Dr. Morrison called. Margaret, I need to tell you something. I've been contacted by David's attorney. They're asking me to amend my report. To clarify that while dosages were higher than I initially prescribed, I did authorize increases based on David's reports of your condition. Did you authorize them? No, but David's lawyer is suggesting that my memory might be imperfect, that perhaps I did authorize them verbally and simply didn't document it properly. They're offering to have me state that there may have been miscommunication, not fraud. My hands tightened on the phone. Are you going to do that? No, I'm not. What David did was wrong. I'm not changing my report, but I wanted you to know they're trying. Thank you for telling me. Margaret, be prepared. They're going to fight hard. David has a lot to lose. I was prepared, or I thought I was. Then, 9 days before the hearing, I had a dizzy spell. I was in the kitchen making coffee. The room tilted, my vision blurred. I grabbed the counter, my legs gave out, I sank to the floor. Carol found me 20 minutes later. She'd come over with muffins, saw me through the window, used her emergency key. Maggie, oh God, Maggie, I'm okay, I just got dizzy. But Carol called 911 anyway. The ambulance arrived. EMTs checked my blood pressure, my heart rate, asked about medications. I told them I wasn't taking any. Ma'am, that might be the problem. If you stop medications suddenly, the medications were the problem. They took me to the ER anyway, ran tests, blood work, EKG, CT scan. Everything came back normal. The ER doctor said it was likely residual effects from the medications leaving my system, withdrawal symptoms. Not dangerous, but uncomfortable. You should be fine, he said. Just take it easy. Stay hydrated. I was released that afternoon. By evening, David's lawyer had filed another emergency motion. Subject collapsed in home. Emergency services called. Subject admitted to hospital. This incident demonstrates subject's inability to care for herself safely. Immediate guardianship necessary to prevent injury or death. Request expedited hearing. Susan called. Margaret, they're using the ER visit against you. But it wasn't a collapse, it was dizziness from the medications leaving my system. I know, we'll get the ER records. We'll show it was nothing serious, but it looks bad. Subject collapsed sounds worse than subject had a dizzy spell. We need to be very careful now. That night, Carol organized something I hadn't expected, my garden club. All 15 women gathered in Carol's living room, ages 65 to 80. I'd known most of them for decades. Carol had told them, not everything, but enough. Maggie needs our help. They'd all come. Betty, 75, Rose, 68, Martha, 73, Helen, not my sister, different Helen, 70. Women I'd gardened with, laughed with, shared recipes with for years. Betty spoke first. Maggie, we've been watching. We've been worried. We didn't know what was wrong, but we saw you changing. And now we know why. We want to help, Rose said. Whatever you need. I looked at them. My friends, my community. Women who'd known me when I was sharp, when I was myself. Women who'd watched me decline and now watched me recover. I have photos, Carol said, from our meetings, showing the timeline. I'm testifying at the hearing, but if any of you are willing to come to corroborate what you saw. Every hand went up. We're not letting him get away with it, Martha said. If this happened to you, Maggie, it could happen to any of us. We're too old to stay quiet about abuse. I felt something break open in my chest. Not sadness. Gratitude. I wasn't alone. I'd thought I was fighting this alone, me and Susan and Linda and Carol, but I wasn't. I had a whole community, women who saw me, who believed me, who were willing to stand with me. Thank you, I said, my voice cracked. Thank you. 5 days before the hearing, the forensic accountant finished her report. Susan and I read it together. The total wasn't $47,000, it was $127,000. He started small, the accountant explained. $2,000 here, $3,000 there, over 3 years. It escalated significantly in the past year, after the divorce, after his financial situation deteriorated. Where did it all go? Gambling debts mostly. Casino records show significant losses. There are also cash withdrawals, large amounts, possibly paying off loans or buying things he didn't want tracked. Can we prove it was unauthorized? The timestamps are key. Most transfers occurred during periods when you were heavily medicated. Some signatures don't match your usual signature. They're shaky, uncertain. And there's the power of attorney he had you sign while impaired. Once we explain the medication timeline to the court, it becomes clear these weren't voluntary transactions. $127,000. More than I'd thought. More than I'd imagined. My retirement savings, Thomas's life insurance, years of careful management, gone. But also, proof, motive, evidence that this wasn't about my health. It was about money, control, desperation. 3 days before the hearing, Susan called with one more complication. David's bringing 2 expert witnesses, psychiatrists. They're going to testify that your accusations show paranoid delusions, that your refusal to take medications shows lack of insight, that your ability to present evidence clearly is actually a sign of sophisticated delusional thinking. How can they say that? Because David pays them, because they haven't evaluated you, because they're hired guns. So what do? We have Dr. Chen. We have Dr. Morrison. We have the pharmacy records. We have the financial evidence. We have the timeline. We have Carol and the garden club. We have Linda. We have truth on our side, Margaret, but it's going to be harder than we thought. I hung up, sat in my kitchen, looked at the calendar. 3 days, 72 hours. Then I'd walk into that courtroom and fight for my life. David would be there, with his lawyers, his expert witnesses, his story about the concerned son trying to protect his declining mother. I'd be there too, with my evidence, my clarity, my determination to be free. One of us would win. One of us would lose. And everything I was, everything I'd built, everything I'd survived, depended on which way the court decided. The courtroom was smaller than I'd imagined. County courthouse, 3rd floor, guardianship hearing room. Not a full courtroom, more like a conference room with a judge's bench. Wood paneling, fluorescent lights. Everything official but not grand, real. Judge Patricia Morrison presiding. No relation to Dr. Morrison, 60s. Gray hair pulled back, sharp eyes. She'd been on the bench for 20 years. Susan said she was fair, thorough, didn't tolerate games. David sat at the petitioner's table with his attorney. James Henderson, 50, expensive suit, face like he'd never lost a case and didn't plan to start now. I sat at the respondent's table with Susan. Linda behind us, Carol beside her. The Garden Club women filled the first 2 rows of public seating, all of them, 15 women who'd rearranged their schedules to be here for me. The stakes were simple. If David won, he became my conservator. Control of my house, my money, my medical decisions, my life, everything. If I won, I went home. Alone. Free. Myself. Judge Morrison read the petition aloud. David Thompson seeks conservatorship over Margaret Thompson, age 72, on grounds of mental incapacity and inability to manage personal affairs. She looked up. Mr. Henderson, you may begin. Henderson stood, professional, smooth. Your Honor, this is a straightforward case of a concerned son trying to protect his declining mother. Margaret Thompson has shown significant cognitive decline over the past 6 months. Memory loss, confusion, paranoia. She recently stopped taking prescribed medications against medical advice, leading to a collapse requiring emergency care. She's now making wild accusations against her son, accusations that demonstrate delusional thinking. For her own safety, David Thompson seeks conservatorship to ensure she receives proper care. Susan stood. Your Honor, this is not a case of cognitive decline. This is a case of elder abuse. Margaret Thompson was systematically over-medicated by her son, a pharmacist with access to her prescriptions, in order to create the appearance of incompetence. We have medical evidence, pharmaceutical records, and financial documentation showing a clear pattern of exploitation. Mrs. Thompson is not incompetent. She was made to appear incompetent. Judge Morrison looked at me. I kept my back straight, my face calm, clear-eyed, present. I'll hear testimony, she said. Susan called Dr. Patricia Chen first. Dr. Chen walked to the witness stand, sworn in, professional, calm. Susan walked her through her credentials. Geriatric psychiatry, 25 years experience, hundreds of competency evaluations. Dr. Chen, you evaluated Margaret Thompson? I did, 3 weeks ago. And what did you find? I found a 72-year-old woman with excellent cognitive function. Her memory is intact. Her reasoning is sound. Her judgment is appropriate. She performed well above average for her age group on all standardized tests. Did you find any signs of dementia? No. Psychosis? No. Paranoia? No. What I did find was evidence of recent oversedation. Mrs. Thompson's medical history shows she was prescribed antipsychotic medications at dosages that would cause significant cognitive impairment in anyone, particularly someone her age and weight. In your professional opinion, did Mrs. Thompson need those medications? Dr. Chen's voice was clear, firm. Absolutely not. She shows no psychiatric symptoms that would warrant antipsychotic medication. The dosages she was given were dangerously high and medically unjustified. Henderson stood for cross-examination. Dr. Chen, you evaluated Mrs. Thompson after she'd stopped taking her medications, correct? Yes. So you didn't observe her in her declined state? I observed the effects of that medication on her system, and I reviewed videos and records from when she was medicated. The correlation between medication levels and cognitive impairment is clear. But you're taking Mrs. Thompson's word that the medications caused the problems, not pre-existing conditions. I'm taking the medical evidence, toxicology reports, prescription records. The timeline doesn't lie, Mr. Henderson. Henderson sat down. No more questions. Susan called Carol next. Carol walked to the stand, nervous but determined. She wore a navy dress, her garden club pin. She'd known me for 30 years. That mattered. Mrs. Jennings, how long have you known Margaret Thompson? 30 years. We've been neighbors, friends. We raised our kids together, garden club together every Tuesday. Have you noticed changes in Mrs. Thompson over the past year? Yes. Carol's voice steadied. About 6 months ago, Maggie started seeming different, slower, confused. She'd forget things we'd just talked about. She stopped coming to garden club meetings. When I'd visit, she seemed foggy, like she wasn't quite there. Did you express concern? I did. I asked David about it. He said she was just aging, getting forgetful. He was taking care of her medications. And recently? The past few weeks, she's been herself again, sharp, clear, like the Maggie I've known for 30 years. Susan pulled up photos on the screen. Carol's garden club pictures. 6 months ago, me presenting on roses. Clear-eyed, engaged. 4 months ago, me sitting silently, thin, distant. 2 months ago, barely present. Last week, color back, eyes focused. Mrs. Jennings, in your opinion, what caused the change? Carol looked at David, then at me. The medications. Once she stopped taking them, she came back. Henderson's cross-examination was brief. Mrs. Jennings, you're not a doctor, are you? No. So you can't make medical diagnoses? I can observe my friend. I can see when she's herself and when she's not. Susan called Linda briefly. My daughter testified about the change she'd seen, the video calls where I seemed drugged, the visit where I was suddenly clear. Henderson tried to suggest she was biased. Of course she was. She was my daughter. But she'd also seen the evidence, made her own judgment. 3 garden club members testified quickly, corroborating the timeline, the decline, the recovery. Henderson objected. Your Honor, we don't need a parade of neighbors. Judge Morrison allowed 2 more, then moved on. Susan approached the bench with a rolling cart. On it, evidence. 9 prescription bottles, labels facing out, dates visible, dosages clear, pharmacy dispensing records, highlighted lines showing discrepancies, 25 milligrams prescribed, 75 milligrams dispensed, bank statements, transfers highlighted, 47,000 in 6 months, 127,000 over 3 years, power of attorney forms, dated during peak medication periods, my signature shaky, uncertain, Dr. Morrison's report, explaining how he'd been misled by David's reports, how the notes in the file were in David's handwriting, how the videos David sent showed me medicated and confused, computer access logs from the pharmacy, David's employee ID, accessing my records, changing dosages, adding medications, all without authorization. Your Honor, Susan said, this isn't a case of a declining elderly woman. This is a case of systematic abuse. David Thompson is a licensed pharmacist. He had unfettered access to his mother's medical records. He used that access to over-medicate her, control her, and steal from her. She held up the conservatorship petition. This petition claims Margaret Thompson is incompetent, but the evidence shows she was made incompetent by him. The moment she stopped taking the medications he was giving her, her competence returned. That's not dementia. That's abuse. Judge Morrison turned to David. Mr. Thompson, you're a pharmacist. You understand medication dosages. David stood, composed, professional. Yes, Your Honor. Dr. Morrison prescribed 25 milligrams of quetiapine. The dispensing records show you gave your mother 75 milligrams, 3 times the prescribed dose. Your Honor, my mother was declining rapidly. I consulted with Dr. Morrison about increasing the dose. Dr. Morrison says he never authorized that increase. David's composure slipped slightly. There may have been miscommunication. I was following his guidance based on my observations of my mother's condition. Your observations. Judge Morrison picked up a paper. The videos you sent to Dr. Morrison showing your mother confused and disoriented. When were those taken? When she was having episodes. Episodes that occurred when she was taking the highest doses of medication you were giving her? David's jaw tightened. She needed those medications, Your Honor. She was paranoid, confused, couldn't manage her own affairs. And the financial transfers? $127,000 from your mother's accounts to yours? Loans. She gave me loans. She was helping me through a difficult time. Did she know? She was giving you these loans? Yes. The signatures on the transfer authorizations are dated during periods when, according to the pharmacy records, she was taking the highest doses of sedating medications, when she could barely remember her own address, according to the notes you wrote in her medical file. David's hands clenched. My mother was declining. I was trying to help her. By drugging her? By protecting her? His voice rose, lost the professional tone. Judge Morrison's face didn't change. Protecting her from what, Mr. Thompson? From herself. She was going to waste all her money. She didn't understand. He stopped, caught himself. Too late. Didn't understand what? David looked at his attorney. Henderson was shaking his head slightly. Don't answer. But David kept talking, desperate, defensive. She didn't understand that I needed that money. I was losing everything. The house, the pharmacy under review. I had debts. She had savings she wasn't even using. I'm her son. That money was going to be mine eventually anyway. I needed it now. The courtroom was silent. Judge Morrison looked at him. You're saying you drugged your mother to access her money? David seemed to realize what he'd said. His face went pale. I was helping her. The medications were for her own good. Were they, Mr. Thompson? Or were they to make her compliant enough to sign over her money? David sat down, looked at his lawyer. Henderson looked like he wanted to disappear. Judge Morrison turned to me. Mrs. Thompson, do you have anything to say? I stood. Susan had prepared me, told me what to say, how to say it. But in that moment, looking at the judge, looking at my son, I didn't follow the script. I just spoke. Your Honor, David is my son. I love him. I helped him through pharmacy school, helped him build his life. When he said I needed medication, I trusted him. Why wouldn't I? He's my son. He's a pharmacist, medical professional. I thought he was protecting me, but he didn't help me. He controlled me. He made me doubt my own mind, my own memory. He stole my independence, and he stole my money. I don't know if he can be forgiven for this, but I know I deserve my life back. I'm not confused. I'm not incompetent. I'm standing here, clear-headed, asking this court to let me go home, to my house, my life, alone. When the judge looked at me, I didn't feel uncertain. I felt 72 years of living, of teaching, of raising children, of surviving widowhood, of building a life. I was here, I was whole, and nobody, not even my son, could take that from me. Judge Morrison was quiet for a long moment, looking at the evidence, looking at David, looking at me. I've reviewed the evidence, she said finally. Mrs. Thompson shows no signs of incompetence. In fact, she shows remarkable clarity, especially considering what she's endured. Dr. Chen's evaluation is unequivocal. The pharmacy records are damning. The financial records show a clear pattern of exploitation during periods of over-medication. She looked at David. Mr. Thompson, your petition claims your mother is incompetent, but the evidence shows you made her incompetent, systematically, using your medical knowledge and access to create a condition that justified the very conservatorship you're seeking. That's not caregiving. That's abuse. Petition for conservatorship is denied. I felt my legs weaken. Susan grabbed my arm, steadied me. Judge Morrison wasn't finished. Furthermore, I'm ordering an investigation into Mr. Thompson's pharmacy practices. The State Pharmacy Board will be notified. Adult Protective Services will be contacted. And Mrs. Thompson, if you choose to pursue criminal charges, the evidence here would certainly support that. She looked at me. Mrs. Thompson, you're free to go home. I walked out of that courtroom. David was in the hallway, standing with his attorney, his face pale, hands shaking. Not from stress this time, from the realization of what he'd done, what he'd admitted to, in court, on record. He looked at me. I looked at him. For a moment, I saw my son, the boy I'd raised, the man I'd helped build, and I saw something break in his face, something give way. "Mom," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry, I needed—" He didn't finish, couldn't finish. I nodded once. Not forgiveness, not yet, maybe never, but acknowledgement. He said it. I heard it. That's all there was right now. Then I kept walking, out of the courthouse, into the April afternoon, Linda beside me, Carol waiting at the bottom of the steps, Susan carrying the evidence cart. I was free. The legal process took 6 months to fully resolve. Criminal charges filed, plea bargain, probation, restitution order for $127,000, David's pharmacy license permanently revoked by the state board. He couldn't work as a pharmacist anymore. That career, the one I'd helped him build, was over. He moved to another state. Indiana, I heard. Started over. Some kind of pharmaceutical sales job that didn't require a license. I didn't ask for details. Linda kept me informed when necessary. Otherwise, I didn't think about it much. Too busy living. Carol came over for coffee 3 weeks after the hearing. Tuesday morning, our old routine, she brought lemon muffins. "I'm proud of you, Maggie," she said. "What you did, standing up like that, in court against your own son, that took courage." I didn't feel courageous. I felt cornered. Courage isn't not being afraid. It's doing it anyway. She squeezed my hand. "You saved yourself, and you probably saved others, too. If he'd gotten away with it—" I thought about that. The other patients at David's pharmacy. Elderly patients. Vulnerable patients. How many others had he manipulated? The pharmacy board investigation would find out. "We're still on for Garden Club Thursday," Carol asked. "Wouldn't miss it." She smiled. "Good. Because we're voting on the fundraiser proposal, elder abuse awareness. I think you should speak." Susan Walsh called 2 months later. Final paperwork complete. All conservatorship petitions dismissed. Restraining order in place. David can't contact you without court approval. Your accounts are secured. New power of attorney documents signed with Linda as backup. Everything's protected now, Margaret. Thank you for everything. You made it easy. You had the evidence. You had the clarity. You did the hard part. She paused. I've been doing this 15 years. I don't always win. But when I do, it's cases like yours. People who fight back, who refuse to disappear. Thank you for trusting me. After we hung up, I looked at the bill she'd sent. Reasonable. Fair. I wrote the check. Money well spent. Some things are worth fighting for. Dr. Chen stopped by my house one afternoon. Unexpected. Professional courtesy call, she said. I wanted to see how you were doing, outside the clinical setting. I'm well, clear, myself again. She looked around my living room, at the crossword puzzle on the coffee table, half finished, in pen, at the garden club newsletter on the side table, at the photos on the mantel, my kids, my grandkids, Thomas. You look settled, she said. Comfortable in your space. I am. Margaret, what you went through, that kind of betrayal, that kind of violation, it leaves marks. If you ever need to talk to someone professionally, I know excellent therapists who specialize in elder abuse trauma. I'll keep that in mind. Right now, I'm okay. I have Carol, I have Linda, I have my routines. That's enough. She nodded. The offer stands anytime. The consequences for David kept coming. Criminal conviction, elder abuse, financial exploitation, 18 months probation, community service, mandatory counseling, criminal record permanent, civil restitution, $127,000 ordered repaid over 10 years, garnished from his wages. I'd get some back, maybe all of it, eventually. Maybe not. I'd stopped counting. Pharmacy license revoked, permanent. The state board investigation found other irregularities, other patients with questionable prescriptions, nothing as severe as what he'd done to me, but enough. Pattern of practice issues. He'd never work in pharmacy again. Personal consequences. Divorce settlement modified. Jennifer got full custody. David's visitation supervised now. The kids knew what he'd done. Emily was 14 now, old enough to understand, old enough to be angry. Jacob was 11, confused, hurt. I didn't know if they'd ever forgive their father. That wasn't my burden to carry. Family consequences. My sister Helen apologized. Took 3 months, but she called, said she'd been wrong, said she should have believed me sooner. I accepted the apology. Didn't dwell on it. Some relationships you rebuild, some you just acknowledge and move forward. I updated my estate planning. New attorney. Not Susan. She recommended someone who specialized in elder law estate work. Will updated. Trust established. Linda as executor and healthcare proxy. Clear instructions. No ambiguity. House goes to Linda. Savings split between Linda and a scholarship fund for pharmacy students. Ironic, maybe, but I still believed in the profession, even if David had corrupted it. Living will detailed, specific. What I wanted, what I didn't want. No one person making decisions for me. Panel approach, Linda, Carol, my doctor, checks and balances. It took 3 meetings. Stack of documents, notarized, filed, done. You're very thorough, the attorney said. I learned to be. The Garden Club held their annual fundraiser in September. This year's cause. Elder abuse awareness. They raised $12,000, set up an information table at the senior center, invited speakers from Adult Protective Services, from legal aid, from the pharmacy board. They asked me to speak. I said yes. 200 people attended, mostly seniors, some middle-aged children of seniors, all of them listening, wanting to know, how do you spot this? How do you prevent it? How do you survive it? I told my story, briefly, factually. The medications, the confusion, the financial exploitation, the fight back. If it can happen to me, I said, it can happen to anyone. I was a teacher, educated, independent. I managed my own life for 70 years, and my son still almost succeeded in taking it away. The warning signs are there. Trust your instincts. Ask questions. Don't let anyone, family or not, make you doubt yourself. And if you think something's wrong, speak up. Get help. There are people who will believe you. After the talk, 3 women approached me, different ages, all with similar stories, medications they didn't understand, family members helping with finances, confusion they couldn't explain. I gave them Susan Walsh's card, gave them Dr. Chen's information, gave them Carol's phone number. Call her if you need a friend who understands. Maybe they'd call, maybe they wouldn't, but they had the information now. That's all I could do. Plant the seeds, let them grow. 3 months after the hearing, a letter arrived. Indiana postmark, David's handwriting. I almost didn't open it. Almost threw it away, but curiosity won. Mom, I don't know if you'll read this. I don't expect you to forgive me. I can't forgive myself. The gambling started small, then the divorce. I kept thinking I could fix it. I convinced myself I was helping you, that you'd never miss the money, that the medications were for your own good. I was lying to myself. I destroyed us. I'm in therapy now, rehab. It doesn't fix what I did. I'm sorry. I know that's not enough. David, I read it twice, set it down, sat with it for a while. He was sorry. Maybe he was. Maybe therapy was helping. Maybe he was genuinely trying to change. But sorry didn't give me back the 6 months I'd lost, the confusion, the fear, the violation of having my own son use my trust as a weapon. Sorry was a start, not an ending. I didn't write back. But I didn't throw the letter away either. I put it in a drawer. Not forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe never. But acknowledgement. He wrote it. I read it. That's all there is right now. 6 months after the hearing, I'm still here, still in my house, still doing my crossword puzzle every morning. The kitchen table where I sat confused, staring at pill bottles, is the same table where I now have my coffee at 6 a.m. Clear-headed, present, myself. My days have their rhythm again. Coffee and crossword. Garden work most mornings when the weather's good. Carol comes over for coffee on Tuesdays. We talk about roses, about books, about the mundane details of our lives. It's ordinary, normal, exactly what I wanted. I live alone. That was always the goal. My house, my space, my decisions. Linda calls every Sunday. Sometimes she visits, flew in last month for a long weekend. We planted bulbs together in the front garden, tulips for spring. She didn't ask about David. I didn't offer. That's a boundary we've both learned to respect. Do I think about what David did? Yes. Every day, honestly. When I take my vitamins, just vitamins now, nothing else, I remember the 9 orange bottles. When I pay my bills, I think about the $127,000. When I see families at the grocery store, I wonder what mine would have been like if this hadn't happened. But I'm not defined by what he took from me. I'm defined by what I took back, my independence, my clarity, my life. It's not the life I planned at 72, but it's mine, completely mine, and that's enough. I speak at the senior center once a month now. Elder Abuse Awareness Group. Started small, just 5 or 6 people. Now we get 20, sometimes 30, seniors mostly. Some adult children who want to learn the warning signs, some caregivers. I tell my story, different version each time depending on who's there. Sometimes I focus on the medications, sometimes the financial exploitation, sometimes the legal fight. But always the same message. Trust your instincts. Ask questions. Get help. You're not crazy. You're not difficult. You deserve to be safe. Last week, a woman named Betty, different Betty, not my garden club Betty, stayed after. She was 75. Her son was helping with her medications. She felt foggy, couldn't think clearly, but he was a nurse, she said. He would know. I gave her Dr. Chen's card. Susan Walsh's information, told her what to look for, how to document things, how to protect herself. 2 days ago, she called. She'd gotten evaluated, found the same pattern, over-medication, financial irregularities. She was filing for a restraining order. You saved my life, she said. I didn't save her life. She saved her own. But if my story gave her permission to ask questions, to push back, to fight, then maybe the whole terrible experience means something. Maybe some good came from it after all. My estate planning is ironclad now. Updated yearly. Linda knows everything. Carol has copies of key documents. My doctor has clear instructions. No one person controls anything. Checks and balances everywhere. I learned that lesson the hard way. But I learned it. Carol still checks in every morning. Not because I need it. I don't. But because we're friends. Real friends. We have coffee on Tuesdays, garden club on Thursdays. She brings casseroles sometimes, just like she used to. The difference is, now I actually eat them. Warm, fresh. They taste like friendship, like normal. Last spring, the garden club planted roses in my honor. Celebration of my recovery, Carol said. Small gesture. 8 bushes along the community garden fence. They haven't bloomed yet. Roses take time, but they're growing, healthy, strong. I water them when I'm there. Watch them develop. I'll be here to see them bloom. That's a promise I can make now. Some days I still can't believe it happened. That my son drugged me, stole from me, tried to take away my independence, my mind, my life. But I'm here. I'm standing. And I got my mind back. That's everything. If you're reading this, if you're listening to this, and something in your life doesn't feel right, trust that instinct. If medications are making you foggy, ask questions. If family members are helping in ways that don't feel like help, push back. If you're losing pieces of yourself and you don't know why, investigate. You deserve to be clear-headed. You deserve to be safe. You deserve to be yourself, fully yourself, no matter how old you are. And if someone, anyone, is taking that from you, fight back. Get help. Speak up. You're not alone. There are people who will believe you. I promise. I'm 72 years old. I've taught second grade for 35 years. I've been married, widowed, betrayed by my own child, and survived. I'm not a hero. I'm just a woman who refused to disappear. And if I can do it, so can you. The roses will bloom in May. I'll be here to see them.